Dune, a popular 2021 sci-fi film that ran for 2 hours and 35 minutes, a novel from 1965. Go figure, the same story. And now, a computer game. But not just a computer game, it's a strategy game, it's a 4X game, and it's created by a relatively small studio, Shiro Games, but the team behind Northguard. Again, a relatively small release, but if you take a look at its Steam reviews, you'll see a very popular one. It's a very enjoyable game, but this video is not about that. No, it's about Dune Spice Wars. We received a trailer today from the Game Awards, literally about 10 minutes from me recording this video, from right now, and we've got a lot to discuss. It was largely a cinematic trailer, you'll see it in this video, but we also received some screenshots and some more information on what Dune Spice Wars is and will be. Without any further ado, sit back and relax, let's unpack this new announcement, let's dig in to the screenshots and try and break down what Dune Spice Wars is all about. My name is JumboPixel. If you like this video, you could like this video. So yes, we have a wonderful, largely cinematic trailer here for Dune Spice Wars. And it is mostly cinematic. There's a little bit of storytelling in the background. Really, it's more theatrical. What you need to know in a nutshell is that this is a real-time 4X strategy game. Think Age of Empires, but more like Civ and less of a combat, more of a, less of a combat-focused RTS, more of a 4X-focused RTS game. Exploration, expansion, so on and so forth. In this game, there are factions, indeed taken from the lore of the world that Dune has created in the books and film. In this game, we are of course asked to forge our own path, choosing between the economics of the world, political influence, and of course open warfare, what we would expect from a 4X game. However, this one, unlike a game like Civ, is in real time. So like I say with the Age of Empires comparison, it is constantly operating. There is no, there is not necessarily as much of a turn-based element. This is a rolling experience. Take that as you will. The other thing that we noted from today's announcements and from the Steam page is that it's going to be released in early access, which is different, although not that unusual these days. And all we know right now is that it's coming next year, which is of course only a few weeks away. Could be anywhere from a couple of months to 10 or 11. I suspect, at a guess, we might see it around the middle of the year. But let's have a look at some of the screenshots because they show us much more than any fancy and quite nice trailer could do. The first one I want to start with is the game map itself. Take a look here. Boom. Here it is. It looks fairly straightforward. On the right-hand side, you can see some different units at play. Very much, obviously, a strong sci-fi setting in this game. So if you're not interested in sci-fi, you may be less interested here. Other things that I note from quickly looking across this is that on the right-hand side, you can see some different types of units, military units, and also, by the looks, civilian units, harvesters, a builder equivalent, I'm assuming. At the top right, you can see some sort of leaders, factions, characters, the same on the left. And then, of course, along the top, like we're used to, we have our calendar and pause or game speed functions on the right-hand side. And then as you move through into the top middle of the screen, you can see your yields. And it looks like, go figure, we're going to have broadly money, some sort of metal or resource, a population, water by the looks up there. I'm assuming that last one could be health. You've got some sort of political point there as well, likely too. Overall, you can see some resources are being stockpiled on the left, and there's some sort of special purple currency that is turning into or changing into others. On the actual map itself, we see some predefined, I'm assuming, territories mapped out on a zoomed out look at the world. You can see from the ISO bars or whatever that there are different elevations at play here on the zoomed in level, but zoomed out you can see some cities, some resources. Interesting to get a feel for what it looks like. Next, this big chungus is likely in charge of the leaders and diplomacy screen. This is a fairly standard trade screen. It reminds me a little bit of Stellaris's. It could just be the sci-fi setting, I don't know, but you can see it's exchanging a few resources. It's what we would expect. Whether it works or not in-game is another question entirely, but it looks like a fairly usable system there in the trade screen at the very least. This one is my second favourite one, probably. I assume up in the left that's us. Could be us on the right. Unsure. I assume it's us on the left. Maybe our opponents, our units, our leaders on the right. But what I'm more interested in is how this one conveys the art style of the map. A very Dune feel, obviously. You're going to see a lot of sand, right? Down the bottom left, we've seen this before in a previous screenshot, and you'll likely see it again. You can see that there's wind strength and sandworm activity playing out across the map. So likely, of course, this hints at what the barbarians, the neutral tribes, whatever you call it, those factors that aren't other players that impact the world setting. There's 2 down the bottom. But more importantly, of course, in the middle of the map here, you can see different houses, different characters and factions, and voting for different referendum, different actions that can take part in the world. You can see military service decreases army recruitment costs by half, which is huge. Infrastructure validations, on the other hand, increases by 50% building costs. So lots of interesting things that are playing out there across characters, and looks like there's some sort of political or voting system at play. I love me some geopolitics. I like the look of that. Looks like it could add a lot of dynamic features to the game as well with those sorts of voting events. There were lots of beautiful screenshots that they've released as well, recently and today, and as part of the Game Awards that just concluded. But I want to focus more on one that's a bit more details-driven here, because this is where the juicy stuff comes from. Up the top, underneath your resource yields, you can see there are lots of different icons. Those are clearly the turn events, right? Somebody is spying on you, move this unit perished, that kind of thing. Interesting to see those play out and their art style. But crucially also here in the center of the screen, right? The thing that really is dragging money and attention onto focus. What can we see? 9 out of 15 agents, counterintelligence operations. House, our house, I'm assuming. And Carthage, potentially our city or what have you. Information in the middle, different yields, and then on the right-hand side, loads of different missions. Some catered towards cities and politics, others catered towards fighting, and it looks like we can choose to pick them up and they'll have various success chances. This feels to me like espionage, like spying, potentially also warfare. Clearly the counterintelligence, the agents, it's all a bit of a giveaway. Missions, looks like a really, really fascinating system there, and maybe this system is what sets Dune apart more than anything from other games, and actually it's the reason why I've chosen to feature this last, because for a base game to release with an espionage system like this, assuming it's going to stay like this, build on itself, and actually work. Lots of assumptions, of course, for a game that hasn't even released in early access. But this looks interesting, and this is what's captured my attention more than anything else. I love a bit of politics, I love a bit of intrigue, and if they can pull off a really good espionage system based off different operations and agents, I think that looks really good to me. Thank you very much for watching this trailer breakdown and first look at Dune. If you're wondering, by the way, if you're not familiar with the setting, because I'm not overly familiar either, spice is the key resource. So we've been calling Spice Wars. We're not looking for the garam masala to finish our curry, although I would recommend you add that, by the way. Instead, we're looking at the most valuable resources in the world, and indeed, this is the planet to harvest them. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be sure to be paying attention to this and maybe covering more of it in the future. Let me know if you'd like to see some more too, and I'll see you then. Take care, and bye-bye, everybody.